Welcome to the Thought Leaders video blog, where industry executives share their insights and vision in today's landscape of live entertainment.
Brad Wurthman, Senior Associate Athletic Director from Virginia Tech. Thanks for joining the Thought Leaders video blog, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing fairly well. So, Brad, tell me, how are you doing in this working at home environment? How are things? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about your team?
So, as far as working from home, this is, I'm at the tail end of a few weeks here, trying to figure out how to adjust to a new normal. And if I've learned anything, it's that I miss my people and I miss our team. It's obviously, as everybody is, right? We're finding a way to keep up with each other and finding a way to through Zoom calls and whatnot. But what I appreciate is that everyone's been really intentional about getting at this point and finding a way to stay in touch and stay connected, and whether that's through happy hours or it's checking on people's families or it's offering to go to the grocery store for some of the older folks on our staff. It's been really, really impressive to see people come together in that way. So what I've learned about myself, quite frankly, is I love my squad and I like to see their faces in real life. But in the process, what I've learned about our team is that, and I imagine everybody feels this way, is that we're all able to overcome it, right? And we're all able to, there's a challenge in front of us, and the challenge is different because the challenge now is how do you evolve your business practice to work from home or work remotely, or how do you use digital to stay on top of what you're doing, and how do you care about people and professionals? And so being able to navigate that with our team is what I've been most excited about as we've gone through all this transition.
Great. Yeah, it definitely is strange, right? Not be able to walk out and see the team and have face-to-face. Technology helps to mitigate that to a degree, but I miss some of that personal interaction for sure.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
So, Brett, you were featured in Sports Business Journal just recently on some of your tactics for selling tickets and engaging audiences. Obviously, COVID-19 and the coronavirus is impacting everyone in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It is the proverbial elephant in the room. So what have you at Virginia Tech done differently? How have you managed communications to your fans? Have you adjusted timelines? What's been your plan?
So when you think about the communication standpoint, and really anything that we've talked about, even to your point, the Sports Business Journal article that features, again, the work of a variety of people. I'm just the fortunate one who gets to tell their story. It's been, for us at least, we've started with our fans are they're fans of Virginia Tech, but they're family members first, right? And ideally they're family members of ours in some respects. And so starting with that as the genesis of any of our ideas, right? And trying to make sure that we lead our conversations with how are you and how's your family and is everyone healthy? And it's, we joked about it previously, but it's kind of weird to hang up with people and say, stay safe and be healthy. And it kind of is like you're talking to the Avengers, and there's a conversation surrounding safety, which isn't at all what has ever been in, if you look back at any of the scripts that any of our sales teams or myself have ever used for any call, at no point in the conversation has personal safety come up. So that as a concept has been difficult, and just retraining our minds to, instead of asking for the sale, right, to just ask them and assume that really for the first time in a long time, they aren't transactions, right? They are very much relationship-based calls or connections or emails or check-ins with the hope, right, that at the end of whenever this goes back to some degree or new normal, but whenever this evolves into a way that is manageable, that we're still part of their family and that we weren't looked at as anything beyond that. From a timeline perspective, just to give a real life example, our season ticket and scholarship fund deadline is March 31st of this year. We moved that back to April 30th. And we're very transparent with our fans as to why April 30th. Process, we reseat Lane Stadium and Castle Coliseum completely. And so all in, that's about a 4-month process after we took out things that were not on the critical path. And so now what we've done is more or less tell the full truth to the public as far as this step takes 10 days and this step takes 5, this step takes 3 weeks.
Right.
And when we looked at that, where we felt good is some of the feedback that we've received has been helpful for how those folks have viewed our transparency in the process.
Great. So you mentioned fundraising as well. So I know the conversation for ticket sales has changed. How has the conversation for fundraising changed with donors versus season ticket holders? I know there's some overlap there too, but what's been your approach to fundraising?
It's really started similar, and it started with relationships. And the thing I think we all love or fall in love with our business is we don't, and it's no disrespect to other sales entities or other products, right? But we don't sell your average consumer packaged good.
Right.
This is the first time, likely in a long time history, that toilet paper is sold out. Toilet paper right now is what
and hand sanitizer.
Right. Those are what the best sports or live events are regularly, right? Like we all drive to sellouts. And in this case, now Charmin and hand sanitizer are the ones that are sold out, whether they want to be or not. And so you think about from a fundraising standpoint or a ticketing or any of those things, but specifically on the fundraising side, because a lot of it is philanthropic, right? Not all of it, but a lot. And a lot of it is coming from people's discretionary income. And they look at it now as, well, if their discretionary income is taking a hit, right? We are not, there was a time where somebody would have probably sacrificed buying extra toilet paper at the grocery store in advance, right? For a Hokies football game. And now that paradigm has shifted in real time. And, I think for us, what's hard is we have to be okay in that space and know that any projections that we had, you may as well throw them out the door, right? They don't matter now. Now it's survive in advance mode and survive in advance alongside our donors and our fans and our ticket holders, and come out on the other side of it, hopefully stronger because of the manner in which we approach them right now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a new normal, to say the least, right? So talk to me about leading through change. Obviously, we're in unprecedented times. In unprecedented, uncertain times, people look for leadership. What's your approach? How are you managing and leading through change today?
So in my belief, you're always leading through change in some respect. And I know there were a few of us were out with Google back in the early part of March, which feels like 3 years ago. But it was a month ago to the day. And so we were out there, and one of the sessions that Google discussed was leading through change, right? Incredibly poignant and topical without necessarily knowing that it was going to be.
Yeah.
And something that came up over and over again was that if you view leading in times of change, then that's a thing that could sit on a meeting schedule, right? And we could say, hey, we're gonna discuss change on Mondays at 10:30. When the reality is, when you look at it as you're leading through change all the time, hey, it gives everybody the freedom to innovate, right, and be able to work with what they want to do. But it also forces people to understand that tomorrow will always look different than today, and so on and so forth. And personally, right, when I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have the opportunity that I have with the people that I do it with every day. And when I think about leading through and leading through, there's times of change and there's times of crises and there's times of like calm water, right? There's enough, we talk a lot on our team about disruption and being able to affect change when the water is otherwise calm. And right now, there are so many external forces that are causing the waters to be hectic that we don't need to create our own disruption, right? It doesn't mean that we can't be disruptive in our thinking. And more than anything right now, we should be, right? Like we should be thinking of ways to capitalize on and take advantage of and connect with people that are by this. But really, when it boils down to me leading through change, if you if you're open and honest and transparent with the people that you're responsible for and that you serve, there's one thing about, tell them what they need to know, and then there's another thing, tell them the truth. And you may not have all the answers, and it's okay to say that. There's some level of comfort in knowing that the person that you rely on in these moments doesn't necessarily have the answer, but they're willing to find out, and they're willing to work on it, and plant a flag, so to speak, and then move forward in that direction. It may be the wrong flag at the wrong time, but you have to be willing to try something. Yeah,
for sure. So, Brad, tell me, who do you think is a strong leader right now during these tumultuous times? Personally, I think Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, has really been a outspoken and strong leader that's taking an early stance. But who do you think is doing a good job? Who are you keeping your eyes on? And is there anyone that you're looking to emulate?
So certainly, I mean, Adam Silver is, as most of the time, right? The NBA is typically the league that everybody looks to in our business and says they did it right. That doesn't mean they're perfect, but they more often than not they hit the mark in moments like these. So Adam Silver definitely, and his entire team. It's I think what I appreciate from a distance, at least on Adam Silver, is it never seems like he is the only one in the decision process. It's the approach that, at least an outsider looking in, it feels like they have a comprehensive decision-making process, and they take opinions, but then once they make it, they go with it. So I appreciate that. It's kind of like the old, fight it out amongst your siblings in the room, and then once you leave the house, your parents need to know you're on the same team. And then the commissioner of the Big Ten was someone that I don't know, but I listened to his press conference when they decided to stop the Big Ten tournament, and asked the question on, are you afraid, paraphrasing, but are you afraid that this is an overreaction? And what I appreciated in that moment is that he said, let me be clear that I and the Big Ten will be very happy if history books show this as an overreaction.
Yeah.
And you think about a comment like that, right? In a moment of uncertainty where the NBA had just made their choice and the NCAA had just made their choice, and the Big Ten was really the first league to cancel the rest of their tournament. And to take a stand like that publicly is a really, really impressive thing, to know that, in that moment you're making a choice that isn't about finances. It's just about people and their well-being. And sometimes in that moment of leading through change and leading throughout, especially crisis, you have to make the choice that isn't necessarily popular. And you have to make the choice that is maybe you look back on it again, to his point, maybe it's an overreaction, right? But what if you were the team or the league that was the underreaction, or you're the person that was the underreaction? Again, when you look at how you want the history books to sort of talk about your leadership or anybody's leadership, you'd prefer it to be that you were looked at as doing the right thing in that moment.
Yeah, that's the mark of a good leader, right? Is making the tough decisions and doing the right thing, even though it's not the popular opinion.
It's funny, I didn't mean to, but we in the Wurthman household, we've been watching a lot of Frozen 2 these days.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's good.
I know. But hey, I mean, at least the songs are worthwhile, right? And it's so ridiculous to compare it this way, but there's a song in it, and the choruses do the next right thing, right? And so it's just a bizarre deal, because if that's all you can do, nobody knows what it is, but put one foot in front of the next and try something. And those are the leaders, the people who are willing to stand out there and say, I'm going to take a shot at this. Those are the ones who I draw inspiration from. So
awesome. So I'm always impressed with your team. What is your perspective on developing leaders in your team?
I appreciate that. I've been at the few places that I've worked, I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of really, really talented people. So when it comes to like philosophy or how we try to work with and build leaders, I was very fortunate. I started my career in the Canadian Football League with some of the smartest people that I've ever known. And their big takeaway was that we're people first and professionals second, when it came to leadership for them, it was pretty straightforward. If we take care of our people, they'll take care of the work. And obviously, when you work in minor league sports, it's a small team and everybody wears every hat, right? And there aren't silos because there aren't enough people to have silos. So, but the people first, professional second mindset has always stuck with me. And so I appreciate that you're impressed with our team, because selfishly so am I. And shout out to the Hokies team, but I really appreciate the way that they come to meet challenges head on. I think that's a big deal. And when I think about how we intentionally work on leadership within our group, some of it's easy, right? Some of it's simple. Show your people that you care about them. It goes back to the whole people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? This is not rocket science, right? Being responsible for people and having their best interests at heart. This is not you don't need multiple degrees to figure out how to do that. So being able to do that, I think, is important. And then building the leadership, a lot of it comes down to, are you able to see it through? Are you able to have empathy for other people? Right? I think sometimes that's lost in leadership. Leadership doesn't mean being the loudest voice in the room. It means being able to see it from somebody else's vantage point and being able to see it from their perspective. So we as a group talk about perspective a lot. And that probably means it slows some of our decision making at times. But it only slows it if it's not critical path stuff. Critical path, we're pretty efficient at making a call and moving. If it's opinion based, well, then let's hash it out, right? And let's come to a better consensus. So in a long roundabout way, when we talk about leadership, we talk about treating people with care and compassion. And then we talk about giving them opportunities that they are not necessarily ready for, but that they've shown that they could handle given the opportunity.
Great. I love it. So you managed and messaged about silos that sometimes occur in sports or in any, company or industry. Mm-hmm. So you oversee ticketing, fundraising, marketing. How have you managed to break down those silos?
It's a work in progress, to be honest. It doesn't mean that, I wouldn't say that we don't have any silos, because certainly every organization of any size has something. But we're getting there, and how we're breaking it down, it sounds so elementary, but it's putting people in conversations with each other, right? And letting people, what we talked about previously, like having empathy for each other. God forbid somebody takes a moment to stop and say, maybe I'm not the right answer in this equation. Like that's an okay statement to make, or admitting that you don't know. There's no harm in saying, I don't know. Our group hopefully would laugh if they heard me say it, because I don't know are 3 words that I'm very comfortable saying. And being able to ask people who have more experience or more guidance, or just frankly better ideas than I do, right? Experience doesn't mean that you have 50 years in our business. Experience might mean that you have 1 year in our business, but if that 1 year is topical to the problem at hand, then you may be more experienced than somebody with 10, 20, 30 years of experience in the business. So especially when we think about breaking down silos, it's, virtually at this point, having somebody with a different viewpoint in the room. It's having the freedom to question, right, without fear of repercussions is a pretty big deal. Being able to walk in and challenge and say, I don't understand this decision. Can you explain it to me? Without anybody getting mad. And again, this doesn't happen all the time, right? But it's the teams that I've worked on in my career that I reflect on, and the moments that we were at our best were moments where, it sounds cliche, but nobody cared who got the credit, because it was about doing better for the place, right? And doing better for each other. And when I believe in my core that when you have a team that's not broken by silos, it's the team when everybody has bought into the fact that shared credit is good news.
Awesome. I love it. So you talked a little bit about innovation and creativity. How can you apply, or how can the industry apply innovation and creativity to our current condition?
I think you have to. And that obviously, like rocket science, right? Brilliant answer. And I don't know that there's any one solution, right? Whatever it is that that works for you or your team, find a way to harness that. And if that means, hey, you pull 3 or 4 people that are your quote unquote most creative and you put them in a room and let them think, right? Mm-hmm. And a room being virtual. But if you let them think on it, one thing, again, speaking to the Google Summit, something that they talked about was that people had to have a license to disrupt. And they discussed that as you need to pick, it can't be everybody, right? It has to be people who are built to ask questions and people who are built to break things. That goes back, I think about different industries where people get inspiration from, and you think about the snowboarding or skiing industry, and Burton Snowboards in particular is a brand that I think does a pretty good job being progressive and pushing their sport, right? Not just, obviously it's better for them if you buy a Burton snowboard versus somebody else, but they push the sport. And their whole plan is they encourage their employees to go out and break the equipment. And that's what they want, is they want to break the equipment so they can make it better. And the hope is that at some point they'll continue breaking it. Even when they think that they've reached the pinnacle, somebody will find a way to break it. And that means that they can continuously innovate. So when we talk about innovation, and something that I learned at PACnet, right? So a quick plug for PACnet.
Oh, thank you.
There's a difference between innovation and invention, right? Invention is having a great idea, and innovation is making it actionable. One thing that's hard, and I struggle with this too, is sometimes your idea, it may be brilliant, but you can't do it, right? And that's not right or wrong. That's just, it may not be the right time for that idea. It may not be the right process for that idea. You might not be in the right space for that idea. Doesn't mean the idea isn't brilliant. It just means it may not be actionable in that moment. So find the difference between invention and innovation. And then, what we're working on, not right or wrong, is challenge your people to look at their own process and the processes of the people that they work with on a daily basis, and give them the freedom to ask each other questions on it.
Awesome. I love it. Brad Wurthman, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Craig. I appreciate it. Hope everyone's staying healthy and safe.
Thank you for joining the Thought Leaders video blog. And remember, everyone can step up and be a leader in their own way. We look forward to seeing you next time.